Hello and welcome to another episode of What Bottle is on Your Table Tonight. Aidy probably thought it took me years to think up that title, but it really didn't. I've got to be honest. I've given away who my awesome guest is this week, and I'm super excited. We have Aidy Smith, an award-winning broadcaster, journalist, content creator, and speaker. His core pillars include drink, food, travel, lifestyle, LGBTQIA plus and neurodiversity topics, amongst some of the sort of mixture of mass amount of things that you talk about, and a sort of a stellar pillar in the community for, I should say. Aidy's the brains behind the world's highest rated drinks travel series, The Three Drinkers on Amazon Prime. If you haven't seen it, make sure you do. Having created and financed it via branded content, the show's released 3 seasons since 2019 in over 100 territories and 10 plus languages around the world. Maybe I'll ask him to speak some of those languages later, Aidy, and test your knowledge on those 10 plus languages as well. A multitude of airlines have also picked up the show, including British Airways, Virgin, Lufthansa, Iberia, and Qantas. Aidy's written various drinks columns for publications, so I'm sure you might have heard his name as well in The Independent and The Evening Standard. He's also heard on a variety of radio stations, such as Times Radio, Virgin Radio, and BBC Radio London, where he has a permanent food drink segment called Thirsty Thursdays. It really is awesome, so definitely something that everyone should look out for if you haven't seen that already, but I'm sure the audience generally probably has seen it, as they should have. Last year, Aidy started a weekly show as well on Talk TV at 6:30 on Saturdays called Cork and Fork, delves into the latest food and drink discoveries. Aidy is one of the only TV presenters in the world, actually, one of 5 in the USA, but only the only presenter in the UK with Tourette syndrome. Aidy is heavily involved in the neurodiversity awareness space. He's a patron for the UK's largest neurodiversity charity, the ADHD and Neurodiversity Charity. Alongside that, being the global ambassador for the world's largest Tourette charity, the Tourette Association of America. Aidy has also recently founded, and I'm wondering how everyone thinks he's got the time for this. So we're going to find out that as well. He's also founded Drinklusive, and I'm not going to give too much away for that until we start getting into that, because I really want to hear more about what the Drinklusive involves and how we're driving, or how Aidy's driving the UK drinks industry further, which is exceptional. So I want everyone to hear this. And Aidy is obviously best known for his unique and irreverent drinks discovery content on social media. If you haven't seen him, you definitely, you probably have, even without knowing it, because he's the drinks personality for Twisted, a food and drink community with over 35 million subscribers. Mixing personality with a thirst to learn more about what's inside your glass, Aidy became the first drinks personality to be legacy verified on IG and Twitter. He is approachable yet cheeky content has allowed him to become one of the most loved drinks social accounts in the digital space. And I think basically, Aidy, what you need to say is culminated in making it on this podcast, because this must be, the echelons of all of that. But welcome to the show. Great to have you.
Thank you so much. I think that was the longest introduction I've ever had.
Well, I have to say, what a repertoire! What an incredible amount of the just pure information, but the amount that you've done already in such a short space of time in general in terms of your career. I know it's not short, probably doesn't feel like short after all the things that are going on at the moment, but an incredible CV that you've got there, and it really is. You are, as I say, one of the pillars of the drinks community. So I'm thrilled to have you on the show. But let's sort of just bring it back slightly and start with how did it all start? How did you get into the drinks industry in general, and sort of what challenges have you faced in getting into those? And then we just go from there, I think.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you ever so much for having me on. And do you know what? My foray into drinks was not at all like many others have kind of found drinks. It was actually really random. So when I was 20 years old, I fought relentlessly at my university to get a placement year to travel abroad because as someone with Tourette syndrome, I was just basically told by the department, just take a year off, like take it easy. You're probably not going to get a job anywhere. You've got to be realistic about it. And I thought, to hell with that. And I've always had that mentality. When someone tells me no, I want to say yes, and I want to prove them wrong. So I sent over 6,000 emails to employers in the USA because I was desperate to get a job in the US as part of my placement year, and got offered a few of them. Accepted one in particular, which was at a graphic design agency in San Francisco, of all places. And at this point, I hadn't even come out at this point properly. So it was, I was like, yes, I was all ready for it. So I'm ready to get on the plane. I'm ready to head over to San Francisco and then embark on this new adventure. But the first plane was cancelled. The second plane was delayed due to terrible weather. It took me 60 hours from
Oh,
leaving
God.
my front door in Yorkshire to get to San Francisco. And when I got off that plane, I arrived to a text message from someone at the university saying, by the way, we're hosting the first networking event for the university that we've done in San Francisco in 6 years. You need to go to it. So there I am thinking, oh, crying out loud, open my suitcase, take out my crumpled suit, put that on, rock up at this posh five-star hotel. And as I'm going up in the lift, or the elevator, should I say, it suddenly dawns on me. I'm like, oh shit, I'm 20. I can't legally drink in this country. And this was at a time though where drinking for me was not a thing. I was necking back yellowtail mixed with vodka just to get drunk. So it wasn't anything that like, meant anything to me. It was purely for the wrong reasons. That has since changed dramatically. But I walk up to this door, sighing, thinking, oh, here we go. I'm gonna have to talk to all these boring bastards for the next hour and a half. I open it, and this guy instantly locks eye contact with me. He walks straight up, shakes my hand, and goes, hi, I'm Steve. And the next thing he says is, you need a glass of wine. Just grabs one and thrusts it into me. So here I am, unbeknown to me, with a Californian Cabernet Sauvignon from Sonoma sitting in my glass right in front of me. And I'm about to have a life-changing moment for two reasons. One, because that wine is something that I have fallen in love with ever since that region, that great variety. But two, because Steve, the chap in front of me, has the same last name as I do, went to the same university 25 years before I did, studied the same course, was in the same halls of residence, and grew up 4 miles down the road from me. So we hit it off. Now, the second turns out is that he had and owned with his wife and a bunch of partners the only urban winery in the whole of Silicon Valley. So for the next 5 years of my life, they basically adopted me as their nephew, and I would help them out at the winery. So I was making wine before I could even legally drink it.
That's a fantastic story. I love that.
And yeah, I fell in love with it from there. And over years, I got a bit more into wine. At the time, I was working in advertising, but then I got approached by a media company. I had a bit of an interest in wine at the time. So there was a company called Vivino that I got involved with in their
Yep.
very early days. I was one of 5 people who started at the company Vivino back in the day. And I was just an ambassador at that point, not a permanent employee. In fact, I should have asked for shares in the company, shouldn't I? Naive
In
little
hindsight, that would have
Odie.
been amazing, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would. And then, yeah, I've worked for everyone from media publications to wine tourism companies. And fast forward a number of years, having written a bunch of different columns, done a lot of social media work, consulted with a lot of people, hosted a lot of events. I now do TV, and having built a platform there, thought, right, it's time to make the industry more welcoming than the place where it was when I began.
Yeah.
And you talk about what have some of the challenges been. I mean, when I was a fresh-faced 22, 23-year-old trying to find my way into drinks, it was really difficult to be taken seriously because you turn up to a tasting and you'd be standing there sheepishly, quite intimidated by what's going on around you. How do I do this? What's the proper way of doing this? But no one really seemed welcoming to come up and say hello. In fact, when I moved over to the country, the only person who did answer my email was Jancis Robinson. And she's the only person who I'd really heard of at the time when I came back. So I took a random punt and I just emailed what I thought might be her email address. And I said, hi there, you've never heard of me. I've heard of you. I've just come to the UK from the US where I've been living for a few years. I'm trying to find my way in wine. Could I ask you a couple of questions? And I was met with a response of, yeah, absolutely. This time, this date, let's have a chat. So she taught me about wine. I taught her about Instagram. It's a good trade.
I love that. That's brilliant.
No,
And
but
so obviously, I mean, we fast forward to where we are today, which is vastly, I guess, different from where you started. And now we look at your amazing plans for this year as well. And not only you're on TV, not only you're on radio, but also Drinklusive as well. And maybe like it's worth, I think, if for those that don't know, give us a little sort of synopsis around why you're setting up Drinklusive and what the goals of Drinklusive. Obviously, I'm aware, but let's hope the listeners or make the listeners aware as well.
I'm a strong believer that as you grow your own platform and as you get a large community around you, do good, give back. Wherever you can, give back. And so, having built what we're built now, I thought, okay, there were pain points that I had getting into the industry. How can I rectify those? Like, I wasn't even comfortable like being openly gay when I first started, and I hid my disability because I didn't want anyone to know about it because I thought that would go against me. I didn't think I'd get picked for things. I thought I'd be a bit of an outcast just from the conversations that I was overhearing and kind of the cliquey and culty vibes that you got from everything.
Yeah.
And now I'm in a position to be able to influence that change. That's exactly what I'm going to do. So I decided to launch Drinclusive. So I've done this in association with the Three Drinkers, which I'm the managing director of that company. So having this idea and merging these two platforms together, my intention is to welcome a whole new generation of wine and spirits lovers into the industry. And I'll be clear, the word generation doesn't mean age. It doesn't mean young people. It could be anyone from the age of 18 to 99 plus, anyone who has an interest in drinks. Every 6 months, I welcome on 6 people. And there's going to be 2 people from an underrepresented ethnicity community, 2 people from the LGBTQIA plus community, and 2 people from the disability community. And the whole point of this is to basically create a fast track mentorship to allow these folks from being hobbyists and having a passion about drinks that they never thought or had the confidence to get into to like streamlining that process. So we're going to give them level 2 and 3 WSET in either wine or spirits. We're going to give them paid commissions on the Three Drinkers. So we'll pay them to write and do social media. The Independent is guaranteeing a paid commission for every single person who comes on board. And Jancis Robinson is guaranteeing a paid commission for every single person who comes on board. Then beyond that, one thing that I'm really pleased about is what I call our Drinclusive Mentor Program. So you'll know all about this. We've got some of the brightest minds, some of the best people in wines and spirits who have basically made up this network, this community of people, so that our mentors, our mentees, should I say, get 8 sessions across the 6 months that they're on the program. 8 sessions with 8 different mentors, people exactly like yourself. And what does this change? Well, the next time that they go out to that tasting or that event, or they're in that environment where they would otherwise feel really intimidated and comfortable, they look at someone like you, they walk straight up and they go, "Oh my God, it's you. Hey, how are you doing?" And you say, "Oh my God, great to see you. In fact, do you know what? Come over here. I want to introduce you to my friend here, here, and here."
Yeah.
And what you've done in that moment is create an environment of safety, an environment of belonging, an environment that is nurturing and welcoming, and allowed those people to feel like they belong, which is something that when we started off in this, we never ever got. So, in a nutshell, that's Drinclusive.
No, and I was such a buyer into it. Obviously, I'm very pleased to be very pleased to be one of the mentors. But it's I think you've hit the nail on the head there. Just picking up on a couple of pieces that you've said there. I think everybody who's been in the drink industry for the last sort of 10 or so years, 20 years, you still get those sort of goosebump moments where you're awkward, it's unusual. You walk into an environment that has still been quite cliquey when it shouldn't be, and it's been very off-putting. I've been to trade tastings, I remember at the start, where I literally went in, I sort of grabbed a glass, went to the nearest guy and went, "Okay, just give me something." Had a drink, and then basically went, "I think I need to leave now because I haven't really got anything in common here. And what have I gained apart from demoralizing to myself? Gained nothing in terms of making any sort of relationships, networking, which we all know in all industries is key anyway. You need to be very good at networking, and you get so overawed by the feeling that maybe you don't fit, or maybe you don't sit in the right place, or maybe you don't have enough knowledge in a certain area. You might have gone to, let's take an example, an Australian wine tasting, and you don't know much about the East Coast, but you know a little bit about the West Coast, and you're a bit unsure. But it came to that point where you get, like you said, you get very off put, and you feel like you don't belong, and you feel like it's not really an area that is conducive to doing any sort of work or any sort of gains. And that's obviously what you're, as you mentioned, you want to completely eradicate, which is fantastic because once you get that barrier broken down, you find that the wine world can actually be very inclusive. It's getting those branches up and being able to deliver on the ability to introduce people to new techniques, to new ways of drinking, to different grape varietals, to terroirs, to you name it, and it evolves from there. And in this series actually of these calls already that I've had with a lot of the wine experts like yourself, it's amazing to see how many challenges people have faced to get into sort of where they would like to be and their direction of their career and where they're going from here. And it's fantastic to see everyone collaborating, etc. as well. And very well played by yourself to get everyone collaborating as well. It's such a great idea. But it's just getting those branches, and I feel like what you're doing here is exactly what a lot of us are trying to do. A lot of our messaging is very similar in terms of we want to demystify it, want to break down those barriers, but having the ability to do it and utilizing your basically platform, as you say, to be able to do that is something phenomenal. I think no one should take that for granted, especially the people that are coming in, the mentees. It's such an amazing opportunity to really understand an industry which for decades, shall we say, has basically sort of had a little bit of a cloud over it, or has been very structured in one direction. And it's almost like if you don't take this route, you won't pass go, you won't collect 200 sort of thing from the monopoly board sort of style. It's very much a case of, like, it should be for everybody. One is for everybody, and not for a select few. And this is a great example of it. So I'm thrilled to be part of it. I know that all the other mentors are as well, and we can't wait to work with mentees and introduce them to everything that we love about the industry, and try and get rid of the bits that we don't like out of the industry, which is, I guess, the perfect ideal and solution that we can try and formulate, which is brilliant. So I wanted to say on behalf of everybody else, thank you for creating this, because it really is something special, and I think it really should be recognized as well. And it's great that Janice obviously is taking part in it as well, which is super. But yeah, you all praise to the three drinkers, basically.
No, thank you. Honestly, I can't wait to introduce everyone to the mentees as well. We've now kind of in the process of onboarding everyone. We've not announced who they are just yet because we're doing the initial onboarding. But yeah, we've got 6 fantastic people who I can't wait to put under the spotlight and just share with the world. And it's interesting because I think that the wine world, there's when it comes to wine communicators, I think there's a lot of fear because there's only a perception of so many jobs or so many gigs or so many columns or so many opportunities. So a lot of people can be quite safeguarded and not want to help out of fear of losing what they have. But the irony is, if you get more people from the LGBTQIA, underrepresented ethnicity, disability communities coming into the fold, they have their own communities who they speak to. And when you start communicating via these individuals to those other communities, there now becomes more of an expressed interest in wine or in spirits. So what you get there is more people being intrigued, more people searching, more people buying. The drinks economy increases, more people spending money. And at the end of the day, it's a win-win situation for everyone because it doesn't matter what you look like, someone from a particular community is still going to be searching online and come across your piece, and they're still going to be intrigued by it.
Yeah,
And it's just kind of pay it forward mentality that I think we need to all get a little bit more used to rather than being guarded and scared and very defensive. And, there are a couple of people who are the guardians of the wine world who've written for many years, and I gave them the exact same opportunity to come on board as a mentor, but they chose not to because they were too busy. And I think it speaks truths to, folks like yourselves who are on their mission and their journey and get what creating an all-encompassing community means versus the people who've been doing it for a while and are petrified that they'll just be removed and disappear. If we all welcome one another, we'll all get opportunities.
absolutely. And just take it back to sort of the very basics of what we know with speaking to everybody on the street and everybody around in the population more generally. One of the biggest fears is when you go to, let's say, a wine shop or a supermarket or wherever you happen to buy your wine from. I'm not opposed to any of those, but you walk in and you get greeted with just the basis of, crikey, I've got, like, in front of me 5,000 bottles of wine. They've all got different messages on them. I've no idea what I'm doing. I hate wine. I just know I like this one and that's it, sort of thing. And the more we can educate people, the more we can, and they can then educate others, and we can forward that on. as you said, then builds it out. The one fact that is true at the moment is there's less wine drinkers in the world at the moment. The world consumption is going down. Well, if we re-educate or give people more education on it, maybe that might change as well and evolve, and then you've got more consumer base for everybody as well. So it's, I think, there's always been the sort of old guard, like you said, sort of ideals in a lot of different industries, and the wine industry and drinks industry is very much one of them, where there is that scared approach of change or evolution, and clearly things like social media creation and TV and radio have evolved over time to very different audiences now, but you need to be able to stimulate those younger aged audiences as well as the older age. The older age have had their education with it and they've understood it in part, probably, but not in total honesty, probably not the best education necessarily, because it's not been as widely open as it is now. And it's very much like we want to encompass everybody. I think the goal is for all of us, all the mentors, and obviously with guidance from yourself, is basically the ability to get rid of all the red tape around this industry, get rid of all the quirkiness, and try and make it as transparent as possible so that you completely understand as much of the wine business as you can, as much of the wine world as you can, as much of the drinking. Obviously, that's the best bit, but there's other parts to it as well. And be able to then share that amongst others. And that's the win for the industry and the win for globalization. Don't forget, if we don't open the market as well to more people speaking about it, then the actual producers of wine will go out of business, because the amount that's being produced is greater than consumption at the moment in a number of different countries. So in effect, you're almost saying if you love wine, then you sure ought to be open and available for everybody, because we want to make sure that we keep drinking the bottles that we like and we keep getting wine produced by the producers. So it's a knock-on effect and a snowball. And I think, yeah, the idea of anyone being too busy for that, unfortunately, I don't really understand. But that's for another
You know,
podcast.
there you go. And do you know what? I take it even one step further outside of just wine. It's understanding one another's cultures
Yeah,
and understanding one another's communities and lives. You know, I've walked into wine stores before when my tics have been particularly bad and I'll be twitching a lot more. And they'll just want to give me the quickest thing they can and get me out the door because they don't know I've got Tourette's. They think I'm probably on crack or something. And so, you know, they're
yeah,
worried, they're
yeah,
concerned. And it's like when someone who is of another ethnicity walks in and they probably think in some cases, you know, oh, this person knows nothing about wine because they're not white, they're not this age group. So let's just give them this thing because this is probably all they can afford and send them out. And it's striking because I've been in wine shops and supermarkets or whatever it might be in similar situation with friends who are from underrepresented ethnicities or myself when I'm ticking. And when I mention whilst ticking what I do and who I am, immediately everything like turns around. And you see this moment of realization in their mind of, oh shit, I should not be judging people.
yeah.
Like I should be taking more time to get to know people. But you know, it's human nature. That's what we need to try and turn around. People do not like to be outside of their comfort zones. So it's about making them feel comfortable with other cultures, other communities, other people, and accepting beauty in all forms.
Yeah, no, I couldn't have said it better myself. So I'm pleased that you said it. There's a brilliant quote from Aidy, but it's completely and utterly true, and we all buy into that. So, Aidy, I am intrigued because I've taking up loads of your time, and I appreciate we've just understood how busy you are with that full CV that I've just reeled off as
Yeah.
well, and Inclusive coming. Uh, I wanted to know what. So, in the title of the obviously the podcast, we're talking about what bottle is on your table tonight. So I'm asking you right now, what bottle is on your table tonight?
So a very symbolic bottle for me, a bottle that is one of my favorite supermarket wines, but you know, you wouldn't even expect when drinking it that it's from a supermarket. I'll show you the bottle in a minute. I'm not going to tell you just yet. I'm going to bring it in. So, this is a bottle that I discovered having met the people who produce it on the second ever press trip that I went on. And as soon as I met them, I clicked with them instantly. And not just because of the fact that they were new almost to wine and they were finding their own thirst for it, their own passion. They'd uprooted their lives from the UK, moved to this country on a whim because it was something they'd always wanted to do.
Wow.
But secondly, because they were one of the first ever people to embrace social media on the same level that I was. So when we got into a room, we were geeking out about Instagram almost immediately. And my conversations with them, you know, helped shape both of our journeys when it came to social media. So the wine that I have is from France. It is a wine that I believe can be, you know, quaffed, drank, sipped, whatever we want to say on all occasions. I think it's about 17 quid. It's Mirabeau et Toi.
Oh yeah.
So I just think that this is such a lovely wine. It's an example of a rosé that has that beautiful peach apricot tropicalness to it, but it's also got that texture. And when you sip a wine, especially a rosé, you can usually get two experiences. You either like them light, fruity, and fresh and acidic, so it's refreshing, or you like similar but balanced with a little bit of almost creaminess going on. That is this.
Yeah.
So this is one of my favorite wines to chill down, not just drink in the summer. I'll happily have this all year round, and made even more special because the Cronks, as they're known, Jeannie and Stephen, who went out to Provence to follow their dream and passion, and turned that idea and dream into a reality, are just two lovely people and an example of the good people we talk about in wine who just deeply care, and all of Stephen's work as well with the environment, with carbon footprints and all the work he's doing there, just concrete that even further.
I mean, that's beautiful. And what I would say, you're going to laugh at what I've picked in a minute as well, because there's a similar background story to it, which is maybe that speaks volumes over both of us. I mean, that's what I'm going to claim. But the you mentioned about the rosés and that creaminess, the sort of the bodiness that carries a bit more body. The great thing about those as well, and as you said, you drinkable all year round, is they go with so many different foods as well, don't they? And it's such an easy balancer. I sometimes find it difficult outside of summer if I have a quite high acidic sort of the basically the prior version you said, the high acidity rosés that are beautiful when the sun's shining, and we all love them. Unfortunately, in the UK, it's not very sunny very often, so also problematic. But they have a time and a place. You've got your barbecues, etc., and it's great, and you feel like a really nice, refreshing, acidic rosé coming through. But the secret to the what I've found recently, and only in the last couple of years, is those rosés that carry more body and they've got that creamy element to it. That just they work so well with so many different food types. No wonder
That's
it's
so true.
no wonder it's all year round. No wonder you said it's all year round.
It's honestly, I love it. And I'm one of those people who, if you come round for dinner, I'll be cooking a fillet of steak with this beautiful butter jus on it, and I'll be having a big ass oak Chardonnay from Napa with that.
Yeah,
And I'm not afraid to drink wines with unconventional foods because I think it's all about exploration. And quite frankly, it's about what you like. Like no
exactly.
one should ever tell you otherwise. If if you meet someone who tells you it's a bad wine, it's a wine that you personally like, and that's totally fine. So tell them to piss off.
Yeah, yeah. No, I couldn't agree more though. I couldn't agree more. One of my friends loves like I think it's a 4.99 bottle from a supermarket. I'm not going to name the supermarket, but and I was like, and they said, "Oh, does that make me not understand wine?" I was like, "Not at all." As in, like, you go with whatever you like. If that's what you want to drink, you drink it. It doesn't matter. The price is kind of irrelevant. It's around what it tastes. If you're enjoying it, then your taste buds enjoy it. And if they keep enjoying it and you drink it regularly, they're probably going to enjoy it even more. But it's purely personal taste, and that's another sort of annoyance that I get, I guess, with sometimes the industry. A little bit of it has to have a price tag to it. It doesn't have a price. It doesn't need to have a price tag whatsoever. There
No,
are amazingly amazing wines that are very expensive, of course, and sometimes we're very fortunate to try them, which is again is very fortunate. But are you saying that AD and I? Well, I don't, AD. I'm going to reference you in this as well, but I'm pretty sure you don't as well. I don't think AD and I go out there and go, "I'm just going to get £1,000 bottle of wine for a bit of dinner with a steak." There's just no need. There's far from any need. And also, my bank manager would tap me on the shoulder and say, "What are you doing?" as well, probably. But there's, I think this whole concept of value or the price tag references how good a wine is or is relevant for you is completely illogical as well.
it is. I mean, case in point, I was hosting an event last night, and as I always do, two white wines next to each other. There's a theme. So yesterday was two Chardonnays from different places in the world, and then I did two Chilean red blends next to each other. And one of them was £10 or £7 on discount from a particular supermarket, and the other one was about £23. I didn't tell anyone the price. We went through them. I asked everyone why they liked, the particular wine. Then we did a show of hands of what everyone preferred. Most people preferred the first one, that was £7 on discount when reduced. And other people, that no one disliked any of the wines, but they just had their reasons for why. And when I told them how much it cost afterwards, they were flabbergasted. They couldn't believe that they had enjoyed something as much as they had that was a discounted, reduced price wine at a supermarket. And my point there was, when it comes to discount wines at supermarkets, we do have to be careful, but we can find hidden gems. And this was an example of just that. Price doesn't always have to mean everything. We often pay more for a wine in a particular circumstance because it's symbolic or special to us. There's less of it. And so we're paying that premium because we want access to that for that special occasion. That's when I spend more on a particular bottle of wine because it's very special to me for those reasons.
Yeah, no, exactly right. And I think the really key point that you mentioned there as well, well, you mentioned a number of key points. That makes me sound like you didn't say anything valid there, Aidy. My apologies. What I meant to say was one of the most valid points there is don't automatically think because there's a large reduction as well that it's necessarily the best deal or it's the best wine, because obviously they're there to be mass produced and there are reasons why they have discounts, etc. It's not all because you're getting the best discounts, so therefore it's the best wine. And so there's reference to that as well.
I mean, statistically, like, because I've started doing this new thing now where I post on Instagram every few weeks about the best discount wines. And from what I've seen in the research I've done, typically the most optimum for quality discount rate is between £1.50 to £2 discount. That's it.
Yeah.
Any more than that, and there may be alternate reasons, shall we say.
Yeah, and that's great advice. So everyone that's listening, please take heed. So I shall move on to what I've got in front of me. And we didn't know what we were going to pick, Idris. Now I've actually got I'm in the French region as well, but I'm in the Loire, in the Saumur, and it's a Saumur Rouge. Loire Valley, I think, is hugely underrated. Underrated is probably too strong a term because everyone knows that there is wine in the Loire, but it's underrated in terms of versus some of the premium sites that you might see in France. This Saumur Rouge is Les Sept Lits, which is La Mourade. It's from Carve Robert and Marcel, and it's a 2021. It basically, as soon as I say Saumur, it's immediately you expect it to be Cabernet Franc, and it is Cabernet Franc, 100% Cabernet Franc. Made from the sort of well-known producers in Saumur, Le Platagnais, which is basically it's a light and spicy red, which is why I like it, and it's very similar to what you were mentioning, and there's a couple of reasons for that. I love the detail on the producers. The Cave de Saumur, they were founded back in, I think, the mid to late 50s by 40 growers. They're basically a cooperative that come together operating under a big umbrella of the Alliance Loire. And it's a sort of a conglomerate of co-ops. I think it's as much as 850 growers now, covering sort of around 4,500 hectares in the Loire. They're massive on sustainable viticulture, but they're all family orientated, all family represented. So they're very small producers, hence why they came together as a big co-op. And this is a wine that, again, sort of you can have it in summer. I even would actually chill it in summer and have it sort of a little bit lighter on. And I think everyone gets, again, probably another topic where everyone, or a misconception where you can't chill reds. Why not? Why can't you chill reds? And I think this is a perfect one where have it a little bit chilled, especially on a nice spring or summer day. But I'm having it this evening actually with a sausage and lentil curry. That's all, a sausage and lentil stew. So, I think it goes really well with sort of mushroomy based dishes. You've got that vibrant sort of red fruit orientation, a bit like sort of a early picked cherry, I want to say, sort of times. But it's got that hidden bit of spice and herbaceousness, which really I think ends up working beautifully well. And what I love about it is it hasn't ever changed. They kept it a very family formula. It's very family orientated. They look after the land. They realize that the wine industry is another agricultural process. It's not, you could have cows there or sheep there, but they don't. They have vines, and they decided that's their babies. The things that come out of the ground, and effectively they've carried it on, and it's gone now through. I think they're on their third generation, which I love. I love the stories around how many generations are in there and what's been going on, and it's just a beautiful easy drinker, a bit like what you mentioned. This is very quaffable. I could probably drink it very, very quickly, which, it is a Friday after all, 80. So, maybe it might be drunk a little bit quicker than a Monday or Tuesday. But it's a beautiful, easy drinker, but great with food. Yes, you can have it with the usual suspects like the charcuteries of this world and nibbly bits, but I'm going to throw it in there with a sausage and lentil piece this evening, and I think it's going to go great. And it's just a magical. I think I think Loire in general is a magical little region that's not so small these days, but it's got some wonderful wines that are, if you're looking for price as well, value in sort of the glass, especially in France. When we talked earlier about wandering around a sort of a wine library and going, France, scary process. The Loire is kind of one which ticks the boxes, does fantastic sparklings as well with the Cremant de Loire, which are just, I think they are the underrated little gem in France. But Cremant de Loire, you've got these great Saumurs that bring these great Cabernet Francs in. You've got the wonderful Chenin Blancs as well that come through in Loire. It's just a lovely region, and it's very accessible from the UK as well, which is also great. And unfortunately, you can't take your truck over there and bring it back full anymore. But no, I'm not saying I did, but in case any customs officials are, just listening in at some point. But it's a great little place, and I love it. And it's yeah, and it just happened that amazingly we didn't know, but we picked out two French regions which are epitomize, I think, what we're trying to do as well, which is like it's family orientated, it's very informative, but they're also very careful around their processes, improving it, understanding how they can develop it, and it's just a great sort of little union. So that was my little take, and I'll be sipping on that. Well, I have sipped on it. I'm not going to lie already, but I'll be sipping a little bit more after this after this call, Aidy. But I guess one final thing before I sort of let you go, because I am I am quite time conscious and want to make sure that I don't take up all your time. Otherwise, we'll have to have episode 2 and episode 3 and episode 4 of Aidy, because I'll be inviting you back. And maybe I can slyly just promo a little one later on when we find out what's going on with Drinclusive at a later date, which would be great. But in terms of 2024, obviously you've got a lot going ahead. We've just listed the sheer amount of things that you've got under one hat, and obviously Drinclusive is coming out, which is extremely powerful and I think brilliant for the industry. Is there anything else that you're sort of looking at, whether it be sort of a wine region or a drinks industry in region? Because obviously I know that you do an awful lot outside of wine as well, or actually things that you want to sort of look to improve in 2024 from your point of view.
So, I mean, I would love the country to fall in love more with the wines coming out of America because I think there is a lot there. And I think there's a misconception that everything has to be super expensive. There are some phenomenal wines in Texas now, in West Virginia. We all know the California of the world, and we all know the Oregon of the world, and I want us to be able to seek out more wines that we can get in front of people in this country that go against that whole stigma of it has to be super, super expensive, because they are here, they exist. I've seen them, I drink them. So that on the wine side, I'd say that's one particular mission there. On the spirit side, I want to get more people into cognac. And last TV show that I brought out on Amazon was all about cognac. So that has been an ongoing mission because I believe it's one of the most underrated, most beautiful drinks on the planet, especially for people who love wine, because cognac is produced from grapes. And from a mixology standpoint, incredible. And then the third, more personal item that I'm working on is just to get more people aware of neurodiversity across the whole board, because there's so much going on there, from Tourette's to ADHD to dyspraxia to autism and Asperger's to dyscalculia. That there's so many things, and I'll be working on a number of projects this year to raise more awareness on that front as well. So a little bit of everything.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing and spending the time with us today to give us all that information. And I obviously wish you well, and I'll be speaking to you a lot more with Drinclusive, which I'm thrilled to be a part of. And we just look forward to seeing the progress that everyone makes, and obviously specifically from Three Drinkers and from Drinclusive itself. But thank you ever so much for your time, Eddie. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's been one of my highlights of 2024 already, speaking to you, and I look forward to speaking to you in the next few months.
Pleasure is all mine. Cheers to you, my friend.
Cheers. Thanks, Eddie.